Right now, school superintendent Tom Horn admits he's lost control of how your tax dollars are spent on Arizona's school voucher program. I'll ask Horn what he's going to do about it. Also on Sunday Square Off, Kari Lake finally lands a job from Donald Trump, but it might not be a done deal. Insurance companies are dumping Arizona homeowners who face wildfire risks. The state could be coming to the rescue. Florida has something Arizona Republicans want, and it's not their hurricanes.
This program is a big, fat target for fraud, and the legislature should get its act together and put some guardrails around it so that we can protect the taxpayers of the state, because after all, that's who's being harmed.
And that was Attorney General Chris Mays last week responding to School Superintendent Tom Horn's new plan to erase a massive backlog of claims for reimbursements from families in Arizona's school voucher program. Horn's plan: pay off 85,000 claims of $2,000 or less, then check for fraud later. That is millions, possibly tens of millions in taxpayer dollars going out the door to private education. The concern about fraud, as Mays says, and as you'll see, they are real. Superintendent Tom Horn joins us now. Welcome back to Sunday Square Off. So this is a stunning development, and you yourself warned about 2 months ago that your office was overwhelmed by claims for reimbursements from ESA families. How did it get to this point where you have to suddenly just reimburse 85,000 people, 85,000 claims without checking them?
Right. Well, I wouldn't exactly phrase it that I've lost control. A year ago, we were processing everything within 30 days. During the past year, 2 government agencies imposed things on us that greatly increased the burden. One of them was Chris Mays, who told us that we had to check even obvious educational expenses against the parents' own curriculum, which we think is irrational, and I'm cooperating in a lawsuit to try to put a stop to it. And the other is that the legislature, at the last minute, without checking with us as to the implications, agreed that parents of students in private schools could do it by reimbursement rather than what had been required previously, which was to go through Class Wallet, the vendor that processes these things for us. So, the enormity of what was created is 2 million requests a year, which would mean our people would have to process 500 a day, and working hard, they can only process 200 a day.
So none of this is your fault?
Exactly.
You share none of the blame for any of this. It's all been thrust on you.
On the contrary, in the first year, we handled it just fine before these other agencies, including Chris Mays herself, imposed new things on us that overwhelmed the system. She bears blame. She imposed this on us.
Chris Mays bears the blame,
yeah,
not you as the administrator.
Yeah, I as the administrator have to deal with it, but Chris Mays is the one who imposed burdens on us that increased the volume, and we couldn't process within 30 days. It got to be 90 days, which is...
Could the volume of ESA families now in the program, 83,000, have anything to do with this?
Yes, that's also a factor.
Okay. Do you have a dollar figure for the total for what those 85,000 reimbursements are going to cost?
I don't have a dollar
figure.
But what you have to understand, Bram, is that the way we're dealing with it, as the administrator, I have to deal with the problem, is the system that every other government agency, federal or state, deals with that volume, which is to have what they call risk-based auditing. And we have 2 years to audit. So even though the amounts are small, we don't want any fraud to occur. We will, if anybody commits fraud, we'll catch it, if not sooner than later.
And I do want to point out, it's not just a concern about tax dollars, but also a concern about these ESA families who've been carrying these expenses for many months, who've been growing frustrated that they have not been reimbursed.
Right.
For their expenses.
That's why I had to change the system, because I don't think it's tolerable to have for them to have to wait 3 months.
So Chris Mays is concerned about fraud, and I just want to provide some context for those concerns.
Yeah.
Back in October, your first solution for the backlog tried and failed was a plan to fast-track reimbursements of less than $75. It backfired when ESA holders loaded up on Amazon gift cards, which is against the rules.
Right.
December's been pretty ugly.
But we caught that.
You
so,
caught that,
yeah.
but it happens, right?
Yeah, but we still caught it. So.
December's been pretty ugly. 2 weeks ago, 2 out-of-state residents charged with receiving more than $110,000 for 50 children, 43 of whom did not exist.
Right.
Another ghost children
By the way, we caught that too.
Caught that, but
it would have been $400,000 if we hadn't caught it, and now it's up to Chris Mays to get back that $110,000.
In another ghost children scheme, a trial ordered last week for former Department of Education employees accused of defrauding the program of more than $615,000.
Yeah, let me point out, those are people hired by my predecessor, fired by me.
I know. Okay. Also last week, State Board of Education rejected these purchases, $2,000 for recreational motorized dune buggies, $16,000 for a cello, $40,000 for a solar-powered air conditioning unit, and a ham radio.
I'm the one who rejected those. The State Board supported me on it.
Correct.
Okay.
But this is all happening.
Well,
and the question is, how do taxpayers know that more of this isn't happening, especially with $85,000 claims for reimbursements
right.
getting bulk approvals?
Right. Well, the point is for us to catch it, and we have been catching it. When I took off,
but you can't even keep up now to the 85,000. They're just going out the door
because of what was imposed on us. It wasn't me losing control; it was what was imposed on us, and I'm dealing with it the way other government agencies deal with it, which is I've got 2 years to audit these small amounts. There'll be no fraud of big amounts.
Two years to audit. Okay, let's talk about solutions.
Yeah.
A couple things occurred to me, and I'm sure many more occurred to you.
Yeah.
Should enrollment in this program be frozen until you can get your arms around these claims?
No. If parents feel a need, that the local public school is not filling their child's need, and they need another school that will fulfill the need, I don't think that should prevent
So
it.
even though you cannot keep up with claims, as you've documented, you think more ESA families should still be allowed in who will keep filing more claims that your office can't keep up with?
We will solve the problem by using the system that every other government agency uses. I insisted on checking everything because I wanted to be sure to eliminate any fraud. And for a year it worked before these other agencies imposed these things on us.
So here's the other potential solution I see. Prominent ESA supporters believe there shouldn't be any checks on reimbursements.
Yeah.
Is that where this program is heading?
No.
You seem to be suggesting this risk audit you talk about is the way to go.
Yeah, but
pay them and then come back in 2 years.
Yeah, but the people who say no checks have been attacking me because I've put up guardrails, and these people don't want any guardrails at all. And I've insisted that every request be a valid educational purpose and a reasonable price according to the market. And a number of them have appealed, and we've won every single appeal.
So what is the solution then? If it's not a cap, if it's continuing to do some checks at some point, what's the solution?
The solution is what every other government agency that has our volume does, which is you have risk-based auditing. There'll be no large ones because we're still checking the large ones before we pay, and then auditing to be sure that there are no small frauds either.
Auditing the smaller ones within 2 years.
Yes.
How large is large that are going to be checked?
$2,000.
More than $2,000.
Yeah. If it's $2,000 or less, we'll audit. If it's more than $2,000,
so this plan,
we look at it before we pay.
What you're doing now will remain in place.
The plan I just described to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what you're just pay the claims and then catch up to the
every other government agency that has our volume does that. And Graham, you know, there have been frauds on public schools. If you go on the Auditor General's website.
Oh, there certainly have, but
yeah,
there have been frauds on ESAs now too, haven't there?
Well, yeah, but I have controlled it much better than my predecessors because I brought in an auditor and I brought in an investigator.
Who audits the auditor? Does anybody audit your auditor?
Who does
it? External audit?
I don't know. That sounds like a pretty roundabout thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe for another time.
Yeah.
Tom Horn, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Happy holidays to you,
You too.
When we come back, Republican lawmakers want to import Florida election laws to Arizona. Is Florida really all that? But first, Kari Lake gets a government job from Donald Trump. What we know and what we don't know about Lake's next move. You can see our Sunday Square Off coverage on our YouTube channel. Go to 12news.com/YouTube. Stay with us. And welcome back to Square Off. Kari Lake's reward for losing 2 statewide elections is a job with a government-run media network. President-elect Donald Trump has tapped the former Phoenix TV anchor to be director of the Voice of America. Now, it turns out a lot of people have never heard of Voice of America and think Trump created the job just for Lake. Verify's Ariane Datil has some answers.
President-elect Donald Trump is set to begin his second term in the White House in January. One of Trump's picks to work in his administration is former news anchor and Arizona Republican Senate candidate Kari Lake, tapped to lead the Voice of America. Following his announcement, many people on social media said they'd never heard of Voice of America. Others asked if he created this new organization and position just for Lake. So let's verify. Is Voice of America a new government organization? These are our sources. Voice of America is not new. It's a government-funded international multimedia broadcaster that was started in the 1940s by President Franklin Roosevelt to combat Nazi propaganda and officially codified into law by Congress in 1976. Per its congressional charter, the VOA is required to present objective, independent news and information to international audiences. It started off as a radio broadcast and has expanded to share U.S. policy-centric content across the internet and television, with services in 49 languages for an estimated weekly global audience of more than 354 million people. While Trump said he wants Lake to lead the international broadcasting team, under U.S. law, that position is actually appointed by the head of the U.S. Agency for Global Media, a position appointed by the president that requires congressional confirmation. With your Verify, I'm Ariane Datil.
And so it could be months before Kari Lake even gets that job. Now to a nationwide insurance crisis hitting home in Arizona. Homeowners here are being caught up in a wave of insurance coverage increases or outright cancellations. Now the state insurance department is bringing together key players to address the problem and possibly recommend solutions. 12 News consumer journalist Katie Wilcox takes us to Rio Verde foothills north of Phoenix, where neighbors were stunned to learn their coverage was dropped after recent wildfires.
We came out here because, my kids grew up riding dirt bikes.
For Kevin O'Neill and his family,
I mean, it's beautiful out here. We love the desert. We love the landscape.
coming home means seeing this view.
It's absolutely picturesque out here, but yeah, it comes with risk.
It's a risk that changed the landscape one night in 2023.
He comes home and he asked me if I'd seen the fire, and I said no. I left my office. It's in the front of the house, went to the back of the house, and just kind of, it's kind of a surreal moment. You just go, oh, okay, well.
Flames from the diamond fire moving in fast.
Truth be told, it's really hard. You're never prepared for something like that, no matter what you do.
From June 27 to July 4th, 2023, the diamond fire burned nearly 2,000 acres, threatening hundreds of homes, including the O'Neills, blasting through the wildland of the McDowell Mountain Regional Park. Then, a year later, the Gate Fire, burning less than 100 acres, but sparking new fears.
It's kind of sad since we just happened to have it last year.
And new surprises.
And I was just kind of shocked.
Shocked to learn his homeowner's insurance would not continue protecting his home.
My wife had received a letter. They said, due to the fire activity, we will not be renewing your policy.
His family had 30 days to find new insurance, and plans don't come cheap.
Some of the big box insurance companies were triple the price.
O'Neill, among several neighbors sharing their own concerns in community groups after learning their insurance providers dropped them too. A problem now so widespread, the State Department of Insurance and financial institutions launched a new council.
And I do want to thank all of our council members for agreeing to do this.
The first meeting on Wednesday, bringing together local governments,
Jake Rhodes, I'm the fire chief for the city of Buckeye,
fire departments, and members of the insurance industry.
Homeowners are seeing increasing rates across the state. We see it in our filings.
The goal is to increase availability and affordability of insurance in Arizona.
If an insurer is looking at that, they're going to say, well, there's no way, even if we only had 10% loss of those homes, we don't have enough premium to cover all those losses.
O'Neill and his neighbors do prepare to prevent wildfires, but say they can't do it alone.
If you look at the fence line here, if I go out there and I go to clear that, I am now fined because that is a state preserve and that's supposed to be taken, for wildlife only, right? If we're going to be taking care of our area out here and we're paying the taxes, somebody needs to come in and take care of that for us.
Now asking for accountability and more action.
But somebody needs to just drop the bureaucracy and just get something done.
And that was our Katie Wilcox reporting. When we come back, why Arizona Republicans are excited about importing election laws from Florida. Stay with us. And welcome back to Square Off. Republican lawmakers at the Capitol have a thing about Florida. If Arizona did elections the way Florida does, most of what these lawmakers perceive as problems would be solved. Really? Florida is the answer? Let's ask Jen Fifield, voting and elections reporter for the nonprofit votebeat.org. She has been immersed in our elections statewide for the last 5 years. Welcome back to Square Off.
Thanks for having me on.
Gotta confess, I have a bias. I can't stand Florida. I have a relative there with a place on the beach. I don't even want to go, but we're going to push on. Why are Republican lawmakers so enthralled by Florida?
Well, they get their results posted very quickly, but also they don't have the tight contests that we have. So that's the main thing. They're looking for faster results here, looking at places that post quickly. They don't realize that Florida is going to have results much quicker just because they don't have as tight races.
They are a safe red state. We are a swing state.
Right, and we have this behemoth of a county trying to count 2 million ballots too, where they have smaller counties that are doing things a lot faster just because they're small.
Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into the legislation introduced by Senate President Warren Peterson, introduced a bill to more closely align Arizona and Florida election laws. What would stand out to what kind of changes would stand out to longtime voters here?
So Peterson and a bunch of other lawmakers got on the phone with the Secretary of State there and found out that they cut off their early ballot drop-offs at polling places before Election Day. They don't let you to just bring your ballot to a polling place and drop it off on Election Day. This would allow more time for processing those signatures on the ballots, and so his bill would cut that off and say you have to drive downtown to the county recorder's office if you want to drop that off on Election Day.
And so this year, as I recall, I think there were about 250,000 or so ballots dropped off on Election Day, and those are typically the last ones to be counted.
Yeah, just in Maricopa too. Just in Maricopa. 225,000 just in Maricopa. Other counties are seeing a big increase in this drop-off behavior pattern too.
Is this a change worth making?
Well, it depends on if you care, right? Do you care if we're getting results that night? And if so, this is probably the only change, changing something about it. Maybe you could show your ID when you drop that off instead. That's another bill by J.D. Mesnard this upcoming session that would allow you to count them quicker. You don't have to verify the signatures, but it's still a change for voters.
So that's what this is all about, getting results all the ballots counted election night?
I mean, there's no way to do that. Let's make that clear.
Yeah.
In Arizona and anywhere. No one is doing that. It's just how tight our races are. If there's 10,000 signatures questioned that night, the day after, we still have to figure those out forever. You're not going to fix that problem. But you could get most of the results, and we may be able to call races faster.
Maybe call races faster. I think you've pointed out the drawbacks. Katie Hobbs does not like this, number one.
The governor does not like this. She said anything that reduces voting access, makes it harder to vote, she's going to veto, but Republican lawmakers are very hopeful that she's willing to compromise. Maybe they can find another area, maybe school vouchers, something like that, where they can compromise on it.
Okay. This past week, you also posted your list of things you would do if you were running elections. What is at the top of the list that isn't being considered now?
It's not really my list. This is coming from county officials who just had to count 2 million ballots, for example. They want more staffing, they want more machines, they want better, they want shorter ballots. We had this 2-card ballot where they're now counting double the pieces of paper. So maybe legislators should stop referring so much to the ballot, is what they say.
So that's one thing they could do to shorten the ballot count.
Sure.
Looking ahead to, let's move ahead past the election legislation to this week, Tuesday. The electors are going to cast their votes, the 11 Trump electors. Are we expecting any excitement there?
I am not, and I don't think anyone should. I think that people are happy with who was chosen. The electors are going to vote in line with where they're supposed to.
And also this past week, we saw a farewell from members of the Maricopa County Board. Bill Gates, Clint Hickman, Jack Sellers stepping down. How significant was their role over the last 4 years in protecting our elections?
Truly significant. And I don't think people realized that they could have made much different decisions after the 2020 election to try to protest our election results. And they didn't, and they chose that. And now they're being recognized by some. They're still being called criminals from others who believe they stole the election results somehow.
They really, I've said this before in the show, but they really rose to the occasion in a way maybe few could have expected, and unfortunately few realize that's just the nature of the county board. Doesn't get that much attention, but truly, in many cases, unsung heroes.
And they had state lawmaker Paul Boyer there do the prayer for their meeting, who saved them from being arrested for not giving over ballots in 21. So it was kind of a celebration, and I saw it as a celebration for them leaving office and recognition of what they did.
I did not know that. Paul Boyer was there, who cast the vote in the Senate that barred the subpoena, and maybe from them being even put in jail in 2020.
He was the deciding Republican vote that said, do not arrest them for not handing over these ballots.
Memories. All right, Jen Fifield, thank you so much for joining us. Happy holidays to you.
Thank you.
You can see all of our Sunday Square Off coverage on our YouTube channel. Go to 12news.com/YouTube. That's our show for this week. Thanks very much to all of our guests. Thank you so much for joining us. See you back here next weekend for our final show of this year and another round of Sunday Square Off.